Oh, a microphony.
And a phony at the mic.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
The Doctor of Discernment is now online.
You know, much like my show, in that it's a local reaction to things that are happening on a federal level.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Wow, do I have a boatload of stuff for you, from the crazy to the absurd. Let's start getting into it because, I mean, it is bizarro world out there. And I say, if it's obvious to me, should be obvious to everybody. Oh, wow. Who could have seen this coming?
This is the Fourth Hour with Greg Belfrage.
Hold on to your butts.
Broadcasting from my basement bunker beneath Kettle Radio. Welcome to the Fourth Hour. Appreciate spending time with you. Let's go to the president's True Social account. Amazing. He posted a graphic here. This is, he did this last evening. Trump on TikTok. 339 billion all-time views of Trump's TikToks. Wow. And then he breaks it down. 201 billion views of MAGA TikToks, 166 billion views of Trump TikToks, 6 billion views of the First Lady's TikToks, 826 million views of America First TikToks. That's crazy. So his performance, number one most followed account, so, which you would expect, right? He's the president of the United States. 6.3 billion total views, 4.5 million views per TikTok. So Trump is just killer. He's killing it on TikTok. So the president also on his True Social account saying soon leaving for the White House to speak to House Republicans. That is underway right now. He's talking to House Republicans right now. And the president saying that of the House Republicans, he said, who I truly love, almost all, at the Trump Kennedy Center, where I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars to make it the best performing arts center anywhere in the world. A year ago, it was a state of financial and physical collapse. Wait until you see it a year from now. He said, like our country itself, it will rise from the ashes. And then the president a couple of hours ago posted this. He said, California under Governor Gavin Newsom is more corrupt than Minnesota. If that's possible, the fraud investigation of California has begun. So no additional details on this. He's saying the fraud investigation into California is beginning. So we'll see what winds up happening as a result of that. And we'll circle back to that in a moment. I just want to share the president's comments on True Social with you. And he also said a couple of hours ago, the U.S. markets just hit another all-time high, all of them. Thank you, Mr. Tariff. Pray that the United States Supreme Court allows our country to continue its unprecedented march toward unparalleled greatness. Excuse me. He says both our national and financial security have never been stronger. So those are some of the recent comments that the president making on True Social. New York Post has a story following up on Trump's claim of a fraud probe of California. And they say the president didn't specify what they were looking into. And they say on Monday, the Post reported that the Trump administration was cutting off $10 billion in social services and child care funding. Get ready for this. To California, to Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, and New York. That the fraud scandal from Minnesota may be growing. The affected monies include $7.35 billion from the TANF program, the temporary assistance for needy families, $869 million from the Social Services Block Grant. And they say at the New York Post that the president has been publicly suggesting that California is more rife with fraud than Minnesota, where at least, as we know, $1 billion were believed to have been stolen from Minnesota. So one can only imagine what's going on in these other states. Now the number of people who have been hit with charges have grown to 90 with the fraud in Minnesota. It was much lower than that just a few days ago. So you got a growing number of people who are facing charges. Tim Walz, as we talked about on the air, dropping his bid for a third term. And it just blows my mind then that reports say, and there are more stories, whether Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota will run for governor, and then will she appoint Walz to the U.S. Senate? I just still, seriously, I can't get my hands around that. That is just, boy, if that doesn't say something about the level of the fraud and just, the dishonesty that comes out of Washington, D.C., is just crazy. Now, whether or not she's actually going to do that, I guess I should withhold my comments, because the New York Post has got a story. Will Amy Klobuchar run for governor of Minnesota? Ryan King has a piece with the buzz around her future. So she is said to be seriously considering a run for governor. It's unclear when she'll make a final decision as to whether or not she will run. Klobuchar said following Tim Walz's announcement, she said, Governor Walz made the difficult decision to focus on his job and the challenges facing our state rather than campaigning and running for re-election, she said. He has always dedicated his career to delivering for Minnesota. You have got to be kidding me. Wow. These Democrats are just, from providing school breakfast and lunches to our kids, to passing gun safety legislation, to maintaining our state's AAA bond rating. He's a true public servant, she said of Walz. And then the two of them had met on Sunday. I talked about that on the air. On Monday, Walz abruptly withdrew. Yeah, I think a lot of this is just replaying information I've already shared with you and we've already talked about. I don't know that there's anything, nothing else new there. Okay, let's move on. We have got the Governor Kathy Hochul, who is scolding the president. Always appreciate when Democrats are scolding President Trump. Governor Kathy Hochul said she ripped President Trump for acting without congressional approval in Venezuela after he called her yesterday. She also claimed credit for sparking the nationwide No Kings protest. What? Oh, she's the one behind it, huh? The No King protest? If you were wondering who to blame, she's trying to take credit for it. She's in trouble. She is in trouble in her run to remain as New York's governor, which is why she's out there saying, oh, yeah, the No Kings protest, that was all her. So she was standing with the mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, as well as some others, saying she told Trump that the scheme to charge drivers in lower Manhattan was working. But when Trump brought up his raid on Venezuela that led to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, she said, I told him, I disagree. So I don't know what was actually said there. This is not very clear. And Hochul is saying what a lot of Democrats are saying. You have got to go to Congress. You've got to get authority. It's kind of important to do things like that. This is what Kathy Hochul is saying. Oh, give me a break. Give me a rest. And this is just, it's more of the same. Unconstitutional war, all of this. And I talked about that a little bit on the air this morning. You know, unconstitutional war. What war are we waging right now in Venezuela? We went in and we took out Nicolas Maduro. And I heard on Fox News Radio as I was ending the radio show this morning, I'm hearing, and I forget who it was, a Democrat who was responding to what Trump was doing. And they just pull up the most inane reasons as to what's going on. It's kind of difficult to explain it. So the cheerleader for the leftist Bizarro World movement, Sunny Hostin, over on The View, she's condemning the capture of Nicolas Maduro. It's a kidnapping. It's a kidnapping. She said, it's not illegal because it violates international law, right? That the U.S. government killed over 100 people, including civilians and military in Venezuela during this kidnapping and capture, and international law doesn't allow it unless Congress declares war, and Congress didn't do that. Look at how these people have to twist themselves to try to respond to what Trump has done. Just amazing. Well, anyway, she said it's all about the oil. And admittedly, oil was a big part of it because that oil was stolen from American companies. And that's why the president, it's one of the reasons, I think, among many, that President Trump went in there. And as I shared earlier, the president's comment on True Social, oil prices are taking off as a result of all of this. Anyway, she's accusing the U.S. of piracy and all manner of nonsense. And this is the kind of stuff that it really just kind of wears you out, doesn't it? I mean, I think I just get absolutely worn out listening to some of these people. The Attorney General. So let's dive back into the real world here. Attorney General Pam Bondi gave an interview on the Sean Hannity program last night, and she was talking about Maduro's capture, and she said they could face other charges. I kind of expected that they would have a certain number of charges that they would hit him with right out of the gate, and I would not be surprised if we see other charges coming. She said nothing is off the table. These people must remain behind bars. They're responsible for the loss of so many lives. These aren't street-level drug dealers. They are narco traffickers. And this is where I think it's really important for folks to understand in terms of the fentanyl that was coming out of Venezuela and headed for the United States. This is why you hear so many, state officials in South Dakota were responding to this very positively as to what happens, because anything that slows down the supply of fentanyl and the availability of fentanyl as it is coming into the United States, being incredibly well received by law enforcement, by other elected leaders who understand what's going on. And I think for, all of the wailing and the gnashing of teeth, we talked about this a little bit on the radio show this morning as to what Trump has done. I looked at this. We're out. Maduro's in court literally days later, Monday morning. He's taken on Saturday. By Monday morning, he is standing in front of a federal judge. He's making his case. we are not entrenched in Venezuela. The United States is not entrenched in Venezuela. That is not what we're seeing. So I think you've got a lot of people who are just hungry to try to tie this to Iraq and to Afghanistan and, the Middle East and being, we were mired in the Middle East and what was going on. And Senator Rand Paul, what has gotten into his coffee recently? He is just more and more off the wall. He's saying that, Trump is just a voice of Senator Lindsey Graham, and that I thought Donald Trump's voice is his own. I think he has made that clear. How many times that Trump has made it very, very clear that he speaks for himself? Yeah, does he speak to other people? Does he have other people that are giving him advice? Of course he does. He's the president of the United States. Do others think they can run the country better? Of course. But the idea that somehow Lindsey Graham is he's the puppeteer. He's the, and like in the Wizard of Oz, he's the guy behind the curtain operating all the levers, and Trump is yet, give me a break. What's happened to Senator Rand Paul? He really, the more I have heard from him over the course of the last few months in particular, I have appreciated, him during COVID and his questioning of health officials. And I have really appreciated some of that. And then you turn around and I hear other comments coming out of his mouth, and I just have no idea where it's coming from. What is he talking about? Has Donald Trump not proven to you that he is his own man? Right or wrong, whether you agree with him or not, is he not proven to you that he is his own man? And I think anybody who suggests differently doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Oh, yeah, here it is. He's under the thrall. That was the word. He's under the thrall of Senator Lindsey Graham. Do you believe that? Seriously, I just think that is just incredible. Also, Carolyn Levitt now, I want to share this. She is, hold on here. There we go. Carolyn Levitt, White House spokesperson, made a statement that what's going on in Minnesota. And she said, asked about this fraud investigation, she said, this is all hands on deck, rest assured. It's a top priority for President Trump. This is on Jesse Waters' primetime. Levitt said he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable, and I think the Department of Justice is going to find out. Wow. So is the Trump administration certainly is not going to let this issue go. So Trump had said on True Social, he said he believed that Walz would leave office before his second term ends because he was caught red-handed along with Ilhan Omar and others of his Somali friends stealing tens of billions of taxpayer dollars. So now you have got the federal government apparently looking into this, and Carolyn Levitt saying, yeah, that the president believes that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is criminally liable and that the Justice Department is going to be diving into that. So we may be talking about this a little bit more. All right, I want to give you a heads up that there will be no Greg Belfrage show next week. I will not be doing the fourth hour next week. I apologize for that. One of the things I decided, and I mentioned this a little bit to you yesterday, is I'm having a procedure done on, I have keratoconus in my left eye, and as I have described to you previously. And one of the things I wanted to do this year, as I was, looking at what do I want to accomplish, actually doing a little self-reflection, was I want to get my vision corrected as much as I can. And so that keratoconus in my left eye is pretty bad. They're doing I think it's cross stitching is the procedure that they do that helps that the cornea actually flattens it out a little bit. It's not a correction, but it will kind of flatten it out a little bit. And then it will allow me to move on to contact lenses or glasses. I'd prefer to wear glasses. Never cared much for contact lenses, especially with my hours in the morning. I don't want to be fooling around in the morning. I just prefer putting glasses on and I'm off and going. So we'll see what winds up happening. But I'm going in for that procedure on Monday. And they told me there's going to be some pain associated with it. I go back in for another appointment early Friday morning for a follow-up. And I thought, I'm just taking the week off. I'm going to battle the pain, and I'm just going to get used to it. But so I will not be on the air next week. And this is something I've wanted to do. And it's being fueled by a number of different things. The concern about my vision, obviously. Also, I have to go in and get my driver's license renewed coming up this June. My birthday's coming up in June. And so time to go in. And I have not been in to the driver's license bureau now. The last 2 licenses that I have received, I've received through the mail, where they were allowing, you remember, especially with COVID, they were encouraging people you could get your driver's license online and so on. You had to provide certain documents, and you'd share those documents and you'd receive your driver's license. Well, I've done that twice, so I'm going to need to go back in, and I need to get my vision corrected. That's one of the things that's kind of bringing this about. I've been wanting to do this anyway, and I'm in a position right now financially that I can do that. So I'm going to be gone all of next week. And I appreciate your understanding and your prayers as well. Again, it's not a major, to me it's major, but it's not like I'm having some kind of heart, surgery or transplant or, any kind of thing going on with my heart. Otherwise, I'm in pretty good shape. But this left eye of mine, the keratoconus, and the images that they showed me when I went into Dakota Vision, and they were just incredibly nice over there. They sent me over to Vance Thompson, and it's just gotten worse. And you can see it in the imaging how my cornea is just really, it starts to point. And when that happens, man, your vision just really becomes blurry. So I want to get that corrected. So I'll be gone all of next week. I won't go into a lot more details regarding this in future podcasts, but I do want you to know what's going on and why I won't be on the air next week. But I'll be eager to get back to you as I always am. I'm going to leave it there for today. You have made it to the end of the video, so you are part of my gallery of champions. Special salute to the Bunker Brigade. Those are the folks that are here each and every day. They're commenting, and I appreciate all of you. If you have not become a subscriber to the 4th hour, I would really appreciate it. Someone asked me the 4th hour, what is it? It's the 4th hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. I do 3 hours on the air. I do 1 hour here, the 4th hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. It's just a continuation of what we do on the radio each day, and I'm really glad you're a part of it. So until tomorrow, my friend, I'm underground and gone.